Lie back. Lift up your shirt.
What is that thing?
I think you're bugged. Try and relax.
Jesus Christ, that thing's real! Hello everyone, we're back, and we are here to talk about something very, very cool and so close to Christmas, it kind of feels like the loot box present.
Shut up, Sam.
No?
I'm playing my latest Game of War Fire Age Emblems Clan Clash.
Yes. What's that
loot
weird-
box extravaganza?
What's that weird thing in the corner now? It's like it's showing you odds. What the hell? Apple, you've actually done one good thing now in the last 10 years.
Can we just say this is an Apple safe space right
This
now?
is an Apple safe space. If you love your apples, that's cool. We're more like Android users. We're definitely PC lovers. We're not huge Apple fans. We get it. Apple is like amazing in terms of the build quality and stuff, but we're not Apple fanboys.
We just like paying a reasonable price for our products as opposed to like 4 times the price
That's
for
true.
our products.
That's
you know
true.
what I
You
mean?
walk
So-
in and then someone like hippie dude's like, "Hey, you want to buy something? It's half the speed and double the price."
So I tried to give it to my wife to buy something other than an Apple laptop, and she's like, "No, I want this one."
Yeah.
It was like literally twice the price of something with equal specs that wasn't an Apple product. She's like, "No, I want it." I'm like, "Fine." This is how Apple does so well. One of the other ways that Apple does really well is through App Store purchases. Now, the App Store is pretty much the biggest deal in the world when it comes to the mobile market. I mean, the Android Store does really well, don't get me wrong, but like the granddaddy, the big behemoth of this entire mobile industry is Apple. They
It
really
started
set
it, really.
the tone. Yeah, absolutely.
It started it,
no
like-
doubt. They really set the tone for, how the rest of the industry plays out. And today some very, very unexpected news came out. They just did a developer update in terms of terms and conditions for anyone that's putting apps on the App Store. What do they need to do in terms of, how they develop their products and, what rules do the apps need to comply with before Apple agrees to put them on the store. And buried in all of the notes was one little mention that reads this, and this is very, very exciting for all of us. Apps offering loot boxes, in inverted commas, or other mechanics that provide randomized virtual items for purchase must disclose the odds of receiving each type of item to customers prior to purchase.
You can even see by the actual loot boxes in inverted commas
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's actually a bit of a loaded word now.
Totally.
It's a dirty word, of course.
Oh,
it is.
yeah.
But now, if they're coming out with these kind of things and they're putting them in inverted commas, that they clearly understand the backlash and the gravity now of that word.
But it also shows that they are just using it as a catch-all word for everything. They're like, we're not going to try and be tricky and like specify all of the different ways it can be a loot box. It's like, we're just going to use that word, and then if it's that, then we're going to call it that. Do you know what I mean? It's really good in terms of how broad that word is and how broad the application of that would be in this instance. But to explain what it means, right now, if you buy a pack of cards in Hearthstone, Blizzard in almost all of the world has no obligation to tell you what are your chances of receiving a legendary card, which I think are calculated about 1% in reality. So you actually have no idea, most of the time as a consumer, that you've got almost no chance to get the card that you actually want. That's the way that works. Now in China, by the way, China's passed specific laws a long time ago specifying that it is a requirement for any company that's selling these sort of chance-based virtual items to disclose the odds. And that's why in China you can see the odds on things like Hearthstone cards.
Yeah.
Right? That's how it is. But in the rest of the world, that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
China's pretty much the only market that's done that.
And I think this movement will actually, bring about a huge shift in mobile games, in Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony games in terms of how they monetize their games. Because they have to be so transparent now, I think it'll fundamentally change the way that they, of course, want to make money off their games. And because they're changing the way they want to make money off their games, it might change a lot of the, mechanics that we would have seen in some games that were heavily reliant on you playing the loot box system to upgrade your characters and stuff.
Yeah, true. I don't think a game like Star Wars Battlefront 2, for example, could have really released itself had it disclosed to everyone up front how little chance you had of getting the cards you wanted. Like, if it was just up in lights, then I think that, I think EA would have been naturally more sheepish to push that product out.
I agree.
Like, this is a $60 game.
Even if it was a 5% odd, I mean, I think a lot of people will still look at that and go, hang on, that's not good enough. I'm putting $100 down, or $50 or $200, or some whales, of course, that put
$15,000 on Mass Effect 3 crates.
Yes, and then if they actually were aware of these small percentages, they're just gonna be like, you know what, this game is so anti-consumer, fuck this.
I hope you're right, I suspect, but obviously I think the counter-argument to that is that people walk into casinos knowing they're going to lose. We know that when we roll that dice or we spin that wheel, but we do it anyway because it's fun, and we're like, if I lose some money, that's how it is.
I agree with that, but I think a casino in a video game, although they're treading a very fine line at the moment...
We love you, Chris Lee.
We love you, man. I think ultimately, at the moment... there's so many changes in the market, and the loot box is now a dirty word, and I think a casino is different to video games. The moment that
do you reckon casinos are more reputable than video games?
I would feel like I have more respect for casinos than these companies right now.
Than EA and Activision.
I would trust them more, 100%.
True.
But like it is different in that respect because you're playing video games and there's children involved and this kind of stuff,
That's
right?
true, I agree with that.
And that is why it's a lot different to like comparing it to a casino because it's an adult thing and it's like you're right, you walk in, you're gambling. Where with games they kind of sprinkle it with all these beautiful characters and this and that and it's all fun and so it's different.
They do the same thing at casinos though, to be fair, with all the lights.
They do, especially
and the ladies walking around with free drinks.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think the devil's in the detail on this. We don't exactly know how this is going to sort of manifest in the sense that there might just be a requirement that a developer has a little button somewhere buried in one of its menus that discloses its odds, and a consumer would never find it unless they knew where to look for it. Maybe they just need to disclose it in their terms and conditions, the ones that no one ever reads.
Everyone just presses accept, like who's ever read the whole contract that Apple sends you?
You want out? Are you saying you want out? Fine, you don't want to be part of this, then just sign right here. No, you didn't read it! This says we don't ever have to let you out and then we can do whatever we want!
Hopefully, iTunes or Apple really sort of aggressively prosecute this. They really push this and say, it cannot just be buried in some menu. It needs to be up in lights for the consumer to see, because that's really going to push change. And then ultimately, as Sam said, the dream is that Sony picks this up, that Microsoft pick it up, Android, Steam. All of these platforms that sell games like this should require developers to disclose these odds fairly, so that if people are gambling their money, then people know what the chances are. That is going to result in some big shifts then, both in terms of monetization models and in terms of underlying games. Games themselves will have to change if they cannot rely on exploiting consumers this way, and that's only going to be a good thing.
And if anything, we might see then a competitive side to which game has the highest chance, in terms of, let's say a first-person shooter comes out and the draw card is the chance of you getting legendaries is like 45% or something. I don't know, but
imagine that if on
you know what I'm saying, though, right?
Our loot boxes are better than their loot boxes.
But
you know what I mean?
A competitive. I agree with what you're saying. It sounds silly, but like a competitive situation where other companies want to make sure that the consumer is now getting the most out of the loot box, not the other way around, where they're getting the least out of the loot box.
If they were remotely interested in that,
I agree.
That company would be like, we don't have loot boxes.
We all hate loot boxes, I get it, but what I'm saying
is...
Not
Sam and his Overwatch loot boxes.
Oh my god, people didn't understand that I was trying to say the Winter Wonderland was...
Oh god, here we go.
I'm just saying, people didn't understand that I was there to say that the Winter Wonderland value of the actual experience is why a lot of people love it, but I know what you're saying. Loot boxes are shit. Anyway.
And for the record, Sam does hate loot boxes, just in the case that was unclear from last video.
Of course I do. I'm just
a lot of people in the comments were like, oh my god, Sam loves loot boxes.
No. What we're trying to say is the actual value that you get from the 2 weeks of Winter Wonderland, the game completely changes for like 2 weeks. It's a very good experience.
And with Destiny, lol, you just throw some snowballs, lol.
That's what we're saying.
Speaking of Winter Wonderland, that's the Christmas present of the year from Apple to us. It's a nice way to finish 2017. We actually have one special surprise remaining for the rest of the year, which we'll send to you guys very soon, so keep checking back. It's going to be at least one more Layman video before we go on holidays. We've already tried to go on holidays a few times.
We've been on holidays since Monday, but every time Ralph calls me saying we've got some juicy news.
That's right.
And I'm just
the Laymen deliver. The Laymen are always there.
We always. You know what? I'm actually glad we've had another whole week with you guys. We are. So we'll see you again tomorrow.
Fine, you don't want to be part of this? Then just sign right here.